Hello, everyone out there. Great to see you all joining us today for today's live Magoosh GMAT session. Yes, we are all thrilled to have you all. Hey, drop a hi in the chat. You know, yes. All right. Even if you have a specific language that you use, right? If you want to drop hello in a different language, drop it in there. Love to see what countries and places and people represent it. Hey, now say yes. Hello. Welcome. Hola. Yes. Yes. Great to see. We at Magoosh always celebrate the diverse and interesting qualities about ourselves. So it shouldn't stop just at just your name. I would love to see your languages, saying hello. Great to see everyone. Yes. Also, some of you may be sending the message only to me and not everyone. We would love for everyone to take part of the discussion. So if you notice in the to section, there's a drop down. You want to click it to include all panelists and attendees. All panelists and attendees. This will make it possible for everyone to see your message. Hey, Lagos, Nigeria. Love it there. Love it there. Argentina. Yes, love it. So we're going to give a few more moments while we have everyone kind of chime in and join. We see that the group is building. And so we'll just give it a few more moments before we jump into the class. And I do a brief introduction of who I am, and we take it on from there. India, great. Wow, okay, New York in the house. Hey, Michigan, what's going on? Hope everyone is having a great, safe start to their middle of their week from Swiss. Oh, nice, beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna give it another 30 seconds, and then we're gonna jump into the class. South Africa, great. Okay, let's begin. Let's begin today's class and see why we're here today. So today is a GMAT live class focused around the big three. This class is more of a catch-all where we discuss three very particular areas of the GMAT that are sometimes overlooked in the GMAT prep process and actually on exam day, but are really key to help you gain that great level of success. Okay, so think about it today as the big three, the three areas of the GMAT strategies and some specific topics that will really help propel your scores to that next level. And so before we begin, I'd like to start with giving an introduction of who I am. My name is Derrick Haynes, and I'm a GMAT test prep expert here at Magoosh. I've included my Instagram handle, dhaynes_, and my LinkedIn, Derrick P. Haynes. If you want to reach out to me, make sure you put the P because if it's not, it'll be Derrick Haynes, and that'll be my father. We look alike, but he's no me and him are very different. So you got so I'm from Harlem, New York. I'm a big brother. That's a funny picture of me and my kid sister. I attended Morehouse College in Atlanta, and after Morehouse, I started working at Goldman Sachs. I did investment banking for about 6 years, and then in my 6th year, I made this transition to education. So I most recently is a 6th grade math teacher here in Harlem, New York, my hometown. Loved it there. And this past year, I made the decision to transition again. But now I'm making the jump into business school. So I'll be attending Duke's Fuqua Business School in Durham. I'm actually getting ready to leave to head down to Durham in a matter of weeks. Classes start the end of July. Super excited about that. But also, before I move on from my introduction, I got to give a big shout out to my co-partner, Elliot, hailing in from Chicago. He will be supporting in the chat. Elliot is an amazing GMAT instructor, one with multiple years of experience. So any questions that I can't answer directly, Elliot is there to catch them all as well. And in addition to that, we have help at Magoosh.com to help as well. So a few housekeeping rules. Hold on one second. A few housekeeping rules. So we'll send the recording and additional resources after in an email to you all, so you can have this for your records. We'll have breaks for Q&A throughout the session, and be prepared to participate. And because one thing about GMAT learning is that the only way to really truly grasp the understanding of the GMAT and do your best at it is to be fully involved and engaged. So right now, I'll give everybody a moment to take that cell phone and do what? Put it in airplane mode. So let's click that cell phone, put it in airplane mode. And also, I'll give you all a moment to grab a piece of paper or a notebook, something that you could use to take notes. I have a graph notebook that's very similar to the scratch paper they give you on the GMAT, so that I'm still, conscious in a way of working through my problems that way. So if, as I mentioned, any questions that we don't get to on this presentation, please feel free to send us a message at help@magoosh.com. Myself, Elliot, and our other GMAT test prep experts are gladly ready to help you answer those questions. So we're going to do a quick check real quick. So we're going to check out some of our Zoom equipments, all right? So in the chat, right in the chat, not the Q&A section, but the chat, what has been your favorite snack during quarantine, okay? My favorite snack during quarantine has been dark chocolate almonds, okay? Dark chocolate covered almonds. That has been my favorite snack. Okay, we got Pringles. Great. Those are tasty. What flavor? Remember, make sure you're clicking that link to have all the gummy bears. Oh, sour cream and onion. Okay, carrots. All right. Chocolate chip cookies. Yes. Beef jerky. Okay, Pringles. Okay, now if you say Pringles, you gotta tell us the flavor now. Which flavor? Okay.
Chicky. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about Chicky. I like to hear about cheese balls. Yeah. Ice cream. Okay, flavor. You got to give us the flavor. We want to know. We want to know what you're snacking on.
Insanely charming.
Love it. Wafers. Okay, I assume vanilla wafers. Those are delicious. Okay, peanut butter. Okay, peanut snack bar. Okay, got it. Vanilla ice cream from Costco's. Love it. Dolce de leche ice cream. Yes. So in addition to learning out what's the great snacks, we wanted to make sure that you all were comfortable using the chat function, and that if you needed to reach out to us, you can, and to let you know that we're watching it. Elliot and myself are going to be in the chat both actively as we continue this presentation, but it's important that you all are able to engage with us and have dialogue with us as well. All right. And so if we don't get to one of your questions in the chat, what should you do? That's an open question to the chat. If we don't get to one of your questions, how should you reach out to us? Someone drop that in the chat. If we miss one of your questions, send an email. Yes, Jim. Yes. Help@magoosh.com. This is the email that you use to reach out to us for support. And so Ellie and myself will be monitoring that. You reference this video, this class, and we'll be able to catch up, okay? All right, with that, let's take a quick next jump. Here's a quick, I'm sorry, Elliot, you want to jump in? Okay.
Go for it.
All right, so here's a quick poll question we're gonna ask, right? How long have you been studying for the GMAT? Haven't started yet, less than 6 months, about 1 year, longer than 1 year. We're gonna give you all about 30 seconds to answer this question, all right? Let's go. And our expectation is that you participate in every question, because like on the GMAT, you cannot not answer a question. All right, 20 seconds, let's go. Less than 6 months, 1 month, okay, great, less than 6 months. Okay, 18 seconds left. Less than 6 months, greater than a year. Haven't started yet, less than 6 months, okay. I'm seeing a little theme here. Haven't started yet. Okay, less than 2 months. All right, 2, 1. Everybody answer. Let's go. Get those last ones in. A few more. Come on, quickly. Last seconds. If you haven't answered yet, let's go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's in. Okay. Let's make sure every time we ask a question in this chat, we're answering. Why is that? Because on the GMAT, you have to answer every single question. So you have to get comfortable answering questions quickly. All right. And what I'm seeing right now is the majority of our group probably falls in the less than 6 months, about 1 year. So we're pretty much in the middle of things. All right. So we'll be sure to check back in. All right. So my mission today is to shorten your time. It took me close to 3.5 to 5 years to get from investment banking all the way into now being accepted into Duke's business school. My job is to cut that time in half. By cutting that time in half by showing you 3 key parts of the GMAT that I overlooked, and that was effective time management, the use of scratch paper, and the power of the error log. Here are our learning goals. And so my suggestion is that you take a moment and write these down on your scratch piece of paper. When you're done writing them down on your scratch piece of paper, drop a +1 in the chat, okay? How time management impacts GMAT success, the importance of using scratch paper, and how the error log is your secret weapon. Drop a +1 when you have this captured in your notes. Okay, I see a few, see 3 so far, 4. Make sure it's captured. Okay, Richard, got you. Anna, got you. Ann, all right. Star, all right. Samantha, Shamita, Kibin, Otoro, yes. Got you. I'm missing a few more. Okay. All right, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're going to move on from there. Make sure you capture these notes. Remember, this will also be on a recording. Okay, who is this class for? This class is for all students of all levels, but noticing that a lot of our students are either 6 months into their study or less than a year into their studies, this class is perfect for you. Test takers who have taken 1 or 2 full exams, they'll probably get even more value out of this because of the use of the experience. But beyond that, everyone has an opportunity to gain from this class. One caveat I have is that there's no perfect formula for GMAT preparation. This presentation is to provide you key steps that we've seen over, Ellie and myself have seen over the last few years of studying and teaching, tutoring for the GMAT. But we believe that there's no perfect formula. Every student would have different strengths and weaknesses. But these are just like some of the key areas that we see that students need to get a grasp on to gain better GMAT success. But like I said, like we have written at the bottom, only you would know what is best for you. Okay, quick overview of the GMAT. It seems like everyone has taken some level of the GMAT, but let's just talk about it real quick. The GMAT has 4 sections, right? It's an analytical writing section, integrated reasoning, then you have quantitative reasoning and verbal reasoning. I highlighted quantitative and verbal reasoning is because this presentation is going to focus more on those two sections and not the other two. Quant and verbal is where you get your score from a 200 to 800. Quant has 31 questions, 62 minutes to answer it, roughly about 2 minutes per question. Verbal has 36 questions, 65 minutes, so a little bit less than 2 minutes per question to answer. And so verbal, you're going to have to do more work on the time management, and that's where a lot of these skills will better support you. All right, time estimates. So as I just mentioned, the time estimates break down like this. Quant, you're going to have 2 minutes per question to answer the quant questions. Verbal is a little bit different. You have on estimate 1.5 minutes per question for sentence correction, about 3 minutes per question for critical reasoning, and 2 minutes per passage, right? Per passage that you're reading comp, and 1 minute per section. Give me a plus +5 in the chat if you're familiar with these types of timing benchmarks. If you've heard of these timing benchmarks before, +5 in the chat if you heard of these timing benchmarks. Okay, see a few. All right. Okay, so a few. Give me a -1 in the chat if this is the first time you've seen these timing benchmarks. And that's even better, right? So, okay, Laura, okay, brand new, great. Okay. So so very many of you are familiar with it, but I want to make sure I answer this part, give more context. These are timing benchmarks to take the exam, not timed per question. So when you get a new question on the GMAT, it doesn't only give you 2 minutes to answer that question. You have the full allotted 31 minutes on quant, the full allotted minutes on 35 minutes on verbal. It's just in your best interest. The suggestion is that you complete that question in 2 minutes. You could take longer than 2 minutes. You could take shorter than 2 minutes. But the time suggested is you answer the question in 2 minutes. So quant, right? Quant has more of a rhythm. And if you notice on this quant section, this is an example of how you will use your scratch paper. You want to keep a rhythm. In the bottom left-hand corner in your scratch paper, you want to count down by 8s from 54 minutes down to a completed section, right? So this one gives you a bit of an extra time. So this is actually 59 and then count backwards. But having this timing benchmark is going to allow you to better take the exam, right? So drop a -1 in the chat if you're not familiar with the scratch paper that is provided to you on the GMAT. Okay, glad I asked that question. So I'm going to just give you a quick glimpse of what may be given to you during the GMAT. If you look at my screen, this is a white paper with checkered, a graphing paper that they give you. So they'll give you this graphing paper a little bit longer than a legal pad, and you will use this graphing paper to take the exam on the GMAT in person, right? In person, you will use that. Not in person, and if you're taking it at home, you would typically need a bit of a plastic whiteboard like this. Hopefully that helps a little bit. You'll get like a whiteboard like this from like your local pharmacy or drugstore or convenience store, or maybe a department store like a Walmart, or one of those big stores like that. And these are going to be your tools of scratch paper on the exam. And so from using these tools of scratch paper, you have to write down timing benchmarks when you're expecting to take the exam. Let me, where you can write, you have access to the whiteboard, a dry erase whiteboard. How much paper do you get? You get 8 sheets of the graphing paper in the personal exam. 8 sheets on the graphing paper on the personal exam. You get 8 of these, and you'll get 1 whiteboard on the online exam. Drop a +1 in the chat if this is making, if you're connecting with what I'm saying right now. Okay, great. I wanted to make sure that that was very clear, that there's a paper when you're taking the exam online at home. You're going to have a whiteboard that you're going to be using, a 12x6 sort of whiteboard. And then in person, you're going to actually have graph paper that they give you. And on that graph paper, you're going to write down your timing benchmarks so that as you get to that question, you know what time you should be on. So for example, look at the verbal section. On my verbal section, I will write finish number 6 by 55, right? So when I get to question number 6, if I'm at 55 minutes, I know I'm right on time. If I'm at 53 minutes, then I know I'm behind. If I'm at 58 minutes, then I know I'm, going too fast. These time and benchmarks help you manage the exam. Okay, great. All right. So let's talk more about time management and executive reasoning, right? Time management, executive reasoning. And I'm seeing a few questions come up. Please drop the questions in the Q&A, and we're going to pause in a minute to have questions be answered. So don't worry about that. All right. So executive reasoning. Business schools are looking for individuals who seek to impact change in the world through the lens of business. The application is one way for them to showcase your qualities. And to be honest, the GMAT exam is not a test of math or grammar, but of executive reasoning. Hence why the sections are called verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning. So I want you to take a moment and read through this brief passage and then sound off in the chat on what you would do next. I'm going to give everybody a minute and we'll take it from there. Remember, you're reading this short blurb on executive reasoning skills, and then sound off in the chat on what you would do first. All right. Okay. Oh man. Oh man. That is new. I love it. I love it. Okay. Time is up. Okay, I'll give you another 5 seconds to drop your information in there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now you all, this is the first time I seen someone say book a flight back back to Greece. And let me tell you, I love it. Can we all just drop a little reaction? Can we all just give them a finger snap in the chat? Or drop a smiley face in there? I love that idea. That was an interesting one. I'm gonna drop a little smile, a little love in the chat. I love that one. All right, so if that option is not available, which is always a beautiful option, I wish I could take it. I see scan for important emails. Okay, prepare for the client, prepare for the client. And if you notice, there's no right or wrong answer. Why? Because when you're making an executive decision, you have various different ways of solving it. And what the GMAT wants you to do is the GMAT tests that level of executive reasoning. You're going to get questions that you don't know, and you're going to have to be able to quickly make a glance in about 30 seconds and find out what's the best answer there. Okay. Executive reasoning skills, quick, complex decision making with little to no context. That is exactly what great business executives need to do. And this is what the test writers and the business schools actually care about. You improve your executive reasoning skills by one, understanding how the GMAT scoring algorithm works, time benchmarks per section per question, and when to invest more time, guess, and skip on questions. So we've already conquered timing benchmarks. All right, let me just see if anyone's paying attention. On quant questions, how much time should we be taking to answer a quant question? Drop it in the chat. How much time should we be using? Quant questions, 2 minutes. Yes, 2 minutes. How about sentence correction? Now I have to make a Anya, you make a quick adjustment, Anya. So 65 minutes is the total section, but now we're breaking down per question. So if you have a quant question, that should take you what? 2 minutes. If you have a sentence correction question, how long should you take on a sentence correction question? Sentence correction should be what? 1.5 minutes. Yes. What about critical reasoning? Critical reasoning, 90 seconds. Love it. Critical reasoning, 3 minutes. Yes, yes. And reading comprehension per passage, how long per passage? 2 minutes per passion. How long per question? 1 minute per question. Love it. Okay, you all are geared in. You all are geared in. Love it. Love it. Okay, so we went over time benchmarks, right? So now we're going to understand a bit more about the GMAT algorithm and how the score works. Okay, so look at these two GMAT test takers, right? So you have a GMAT test taker on one side and GMAT test taker on the other side. Let's pay attention to the 620 and the 400. So the GMAT exam is a computer adaptive exam. Drop a +1 in the chat if you understand what a computer adaptive exam is. Okay, we got a few. Okay. Explain it. I want someone to explain it in one sentence. Drop one sentence in the chat if you know what is a computer adaptive exam. One sentence in the chat. I give you all about not standardized. Okay, give me a little bit more than not standardized. Give me a little bit more than not standardized. Computer adaptive exam, the CAT, adapts difficulty based on previous answers. Yes. Need to drop. Okay, great. Yes. All right. See you soon. Exam adjust. Okay, correct answers lead to high. Yes. Adapts to your performance. Okay. So as you answer questions correctly, the exam gets harder. And as you answer questions incorrectly, the exam gets easier. So what you're seeing with someone at a 620 is that they began the exam answering a lot of these questions easy. They got a string of 3 questions correct. But then they started to kind of oscillate between the two, right? They started to oscillate between right and wrong answers. So their score never really truly dipped, but they did get questions wrong. So what does that tell you about the GMAT? You're going to get questions wrong, right? You're going to miss questions. I can tell you as someone who's taken a GMAT before, who's scored very well, solid on the GMAT, you're going to get 40% of your questions wrong. Okay? You're going to get 40% of the questions wrong, no matter how hard or how easy the exam is, right? The goal, you're going to get 60% correct, 40 of it, you're going to get wrong. So even at a score of a 400, you're going to still get the same level of questions right or wrong. So the GMAT exam is not about the number of questions you get right or wrong. It's about the difficulty level of questions getting right or wrong. Okay, so that's the first step. Now let's look at the second graph with no score added onto it. As you can see, the GMAT began with someone who was getting 3 questions wrong, and then they had a bit of a dip. This also begins with someone getting 3 questions wrong, and then they start to get them right. As you notice, the GMAT started to throw out harder and harder questions, and this individual started to get these questions right, but in shorter and shorter time. So they may have started to speed up, they may have started to guess incorrectly, but the GMAT always allows you the opportunity to raise your score back to the same level if you begin to break out and getting answers correct. Yes, yes, all of the GMAT official guide tests are adaptive that you get for free online. They're adaptive. They're free and they're adaptive. You should only be taking GMAT full test preps, tests, CAT exams that are adaptive. No, nothing that's static, where it's like on a pen or a pad. You want to make sure that the exam is changing every time you're answering questions. So let me just go back. So here's a simple breakdown. A myth that happens. I have to get the first 10 questions right to have an elite score. That's not true. An actual mismanagement of time will sink your score. The GMAT will penalize you for running out of time because the exam will give you questions that are too challenging for you to solve in such little time, and your score will begin to drop. So here's an example. I'm going to go back to the previous slide. So let's take this individual right here on the second chart in the middle, right? As you can see, their score started to rise, but then it began to dip at the end on the purple line. The purple line on the second chart on the left-hand side, their score started to dip. It probably started to dip not because they couldn't answer these questions, but because they started to run out of time at the end of the section. If you run out of time at the end of the section, your score will begin to dip because you will quickly start guessing questions. How many of you have taken a GMAT before or a practice test before, right? And you get to the end of the test and then you start getting a bunch of easy questions, but you don't have enough time to answer them, right? So you're like, drop a W in there for just worrisome. If you've taken the GMAT exam before or a practice test, and then you look back and you're like, man, if I had 5 more minutes, I could. I mean, if I had 2 more minutes, I could answer this question, but I only had 30 seconds. That impacts your score. That lowers your score. So you need to make sure that when you're taking the GMAT, you're giving yourself a proper spacing so that when you get to the end of the test, they're not giving you 30 seconds to answer a question that takes 2 minutes. Okay? So let's move on from there. We're going to go to a question. Okay? Open discussion. What do you think happened to this test taker? All right? What do you think happened in this middle section? Right? Do you feel like they were getting easier questions or harder questions in this middle section when they start to get all their scores start to rise? Drop it in the chat. Do you think they got easier questions or harder questions? Harder, yes. The questions got what? Progressively harder. But then, if you notice, towards the end of the section, they started to go up and down, up and down, up and down, right? Up and down, up and down. Up and down. And so now this wouldn't make any sense, right? Like in the beginning, they got all these easier questions wrong, but then in the middle, they started to get the questions right. This sometimes happens with test takers. You know, does anybody ever get nervous sometimes when you're taking a standardized test? right? You ever get nervous? Sometimes you get worried. Sometimes you get a little anxious. So you get the first couple of questions wrong. The GMAT algorithm makes it so that even if you get those questions wrong, but you build in a streak of right questions, you can recover from that. And so at the end of the test, this student ended with a 45 in the quant section, which is pretty solid. That's a pretty solid score. A 45 is definitely a solid score. You know, most business schools would take a 45. I'll say almost all business schools take a 45 in the quant section. But look at this last part is what worries me. The question wrong, question right, question wrong, question right. Why would that worry you if you're getting right and wrong questions at the end of the test? Why would that worry? Why do you think that would worry you? What do you think that's telling you about this test taker? What are some thoughts? Yes, they're rushing. Exactly. They reached a plateau. They're getting stressed out. No time. So you all are thinking. Lack of time management. Like this is what I always wanted us to think about. These are the keys. That's the key takeaway. Time management. The way that you succeed on the GMAT is time management. And no one wants to tell you that. Because on the GMAT, what is your most precious resource? Time, exactly. Time is your most precious resource. So you must manage time. So like if you all will become CEOs and founders of organizations with money, right? So you have $1 billion backing. So money might be your most precious resource. But on the GMAT, everybody has the same amount of what? Time. Everybody has the same amount of time, and it's how you use it. So you just have to manage your time properly. Here's a quick question I want us to just answer real quick. We're going to answer one of them, not both of them. All right. I'm on question number three on the quant section, and I am 2 minutes behind my timing benchmark. And I have a good feeling I can answer this question correct. It seems easy, but I'm not able to eliminate any answer choices. However, I know I solved something like this before. Should I drop your answer in the chat? Guess and move on. Try to solve the problem a different way. Invest another 1 minute, invest another 2 minutes. What would you do? All right, a few more seconds. Come on, let's get these guests in. I want everyone participating. I keep seeing the same names. Let's get some new names up there. We got a full house right now. Let's get everybody involved. Let's get everybody involved. Okay. Yes. All right. So this is the trick of the GMAT. The test writers of the GMAT are so tricky. This is what they do. They provide you questions that look very similar to the official guide, and you know them. And if you had a chance, you could solve them. But what they want you to do is to just spend that time guessing. And as you spend that time guessing, you're wasting time. So our suggestion is actually guess and move on. Why? Because on the GMAT, there's no place for good feelings. You need more than a good feeling. Try to narrow each question down to a 50-50 toss-up if you can't answer it, and move on. So we're going to skip this next question, right? Because this one hits on mostly what we just kind of talked about. So here's a few key takeaways. The GMAT is not a math or a grammar test. The test is focused on your decision making and your best use of your resource. What's your greatest resource on the GMAT, you all? Drop it in the chat. The greatest resource is time, yes. Make sure you hit your timing benchmarks. You gotta hit your timing benchmarks. These timing benchmarks are important. What's your timing benchmarks on quant? Every what? Every question should take how long? 2 minutes. Yes. On sentence correction, how long should each question take? Sentence correction, 1.5 minutes. Yes. Critical reasoning, how much time? 3 minutes. Yes. In RC, reading a passage takes what? 2 minutes per question. You get 1 minute. Yes. And those are the keys to keep. And be comfortable skipping and blind guessing are part of the game. When I took the GMAT, I skipped meaning by blind guessing, like not even reading the question, just guessed and move on. That's what I mean by skip. And taking a blind guess. So I open it up right now for any questions. Elliot, do you want to have any right now?
I've got nothing ready to go. I think we're doing a great job so far, but we can give everybody just a second. If there are pressing questions you want Derrick answer right now, drop them in the chat or the Q&A for us before we keep moving. We'll have more time for Q&A at the end also, folks.
Okay. So I don't see anything up right now. So we're just gonna get through this, and then at the end, open to all Q&A, okay? Scratch pad, and this is a point of just really honing in the importance of it. Measure twice and cut once. The GMAT is a make or miss game, right? And so the importance of the GMAT is that it's an exam that's designed to reward you for accuracy, but severely penalize you for careless errors. The writers of the GMAT expect you to misread a question. So for example, you may read a question and you think they're asking for area, but they really want the perimeter. The GMAT test writers also want you to answer the wrong part of the question. Drop a +1 in the chat if you've been there before. They ask you a question about Bob's age, right? But they're really looking for Bill's age, right? Drop a +1 if you've been there before. They're like, Bob is 20 years older than Bill, and then on his 3rd birthday, Bob is gonna be 10 years older than him. And then they say, what's Bill's age? And you answer for Bob, and it's wrong, and you miss a point. You all been there before, right? We all been there before, right? So the GMAT is geared to trick us. The reason why the GMAT is geared to trick us is because I'll let you in on a little secret. 75% of the things that you cover in GMAT Quant and in GMAT Verbal are covered in my 6th grade classroom. 70% of the topics that we cover in GMAT Quant and Verbal is covered in my 6th grade curriculum. So in order for them to challenge you on this age level and this level of academic success, they have to trick you. So the GMAT is all about tricks. If you could solve a GMAT problem under 1 minute, chances are you fell for the trick. So double check. So here's a few ideas on just how to double check yourself in the question answering process. Okay. So first, when you read each question that appears on the screen, take a deep breath. Read the question. Think about the question. Take notes on the question. Use your notes. Solve the question, then check the question, then answer. Okay. Which one of these do you all think is the most important one to you? Breathe, read, think, take notes, solve, check, answer. Okay, see, check, think, breathe. Okay. Now, this is no right or wrong answer, so let me just take that step back. I love what you all are thinking. You know what I love about, yeah, oh man, and it happens all the time, and I misread a lot of GMAT questions as well. So, and one of the things you can do is remember, take a deep breath in the beginning, and then read, and then just take your time and check it. There's no right or wrong answer, but you know what I love to see is that no one said answer is the most important one. I love that. Kudos. Give yourself a pat on the back. The answer is like driving into your driveway at home, right? It's or like unlocking the door with the key. That's the only way you could get inside the apartment. But sometimes you got to travel by train, bus, airplane, whatever may have you. And those are the ways to get home. Putting the key in the door and turning the knob is the easy part. Getting home is the hard part, right? So remember, just take your time. Okay. Thanks, Elliot, for chat support. So just take the time and you'll be there, right? So let's try this together. Again, we're going to just try the process together, okay? We're not going to try the problem together. We're just going to try the process together. Don't answer the question. If you can't answer it, but we're just going to work on the process together. So I'm going to flash 2 problems on the screen, give you all a second, but I'm only going to do 1 problem just to get yourself comfortable. All right, drop RTG in the chat when you're ready to go. You have a dry erase marker or a pencil or whatever may have you, and you're ready to go. Ready to go. Yeah, ready to go. When you're ready to go, drop it in the chat. I'm going to flash a problem. And when I flash the problem, you're going to go through the steps, right? You're going to go through the steps. And let me just flash the steps for you one more time. Flash the steps for you one more time. Breathe, read, think, take notes, solve, check, answer. All right. Right. Ready? I'll give you all 2 minutes. Ready, set, go. Decide on what problem you want to work on. Any problem you want to. Remember to breathe. One minute left. I'm going to breathe. Read. Take notes. Think. Check. "30 seconds left." All right, time's up. Time is up, okay? Time is up. So let's discuss. Let's take a moment, just reflect on this process. Drop your reflections in this chat. Drop some answers to your reflections in this chat. Did you take a deep breath? Did you take a moment to think and reflect? Did you take notes? If so, how would you rate the quality of your notes? Could I look at your notes and know your process? Did you double check your work? Did you answer the right questions? I know one of the questions was a little bit of a trick to it. So waiting to see your reflections. Thanks, Laura, for your reflection. Love to see everyone else's reflection. Drop some answers down to these questions. Okay. All right. Maybe not speed up your process. Maybe let's not say that. Maybe you don't have to speed up your process. Maybe you just have to find more intentionality in your process. All right. The GMAT, you want to move quick, not fast. All right. So you want to move quick, not fast. So maybe not necessarily speed up your process. Maybe it's just be more intentional, right? You're going to run out of time. It's going to happen. Okay. Great reflection on this, you all. Great reflection. I asked this, has this been the first time you've timed yourself when doing a GMAT question? Was this the first time? Okay, great. This is the first, clap it up. Love it, love it, because the GMAT is a time game and it's so easy to say, hey, I'm gonna take the OG, I'm gonna solve a bunch of questions. I'm not gonna put any time up there. Oh man, like, oh shoot, like the GMAT is timed, right? So you wanna practice how you play. Okay. If you're gonna run, if you're a sprinter running for the 100, maybe the first time you go out and sprint, you sprint alone, you sprint by yourself, no time. But as you start to get your pace going, you want to have a timer, you want to have a stopwatch, you want to know where you fall and where you gauge. So congratulations on you for doing this. This is a great first step in your process. Few key takeaways. All right, few key takeaways. The scratch paper, if used consistently, is your safety net. It's to help you catch your errors. High quality scratch paperwork ensures that we are methodically thinking through our answer choices. Careless errors, not gaps in content knowledge, are the main destroyers for your GMAT score. You hear me? Let's just repeat that. I want to let everybody drop that in the chat. Accuracy, the lack of accuracy, not content knowledge lowers your score. Drop that in the chat, because I want you all to understand that accuracy gaps, not content knowledge, destroys your score. It's not your lack of knowledge. Again, like I said, everything that's been on the GMAT besides geometry and combinatories are not in middle school math, but everything else is. Accuracy. You want to be accurate. You want to be able to line up that answer in your sight and get it, and like boop, and get it each and every time. Come on, I need a few more. I need a few more. Know that I'm participating. We have about 100 people, a few hundred people in here. Let's get these numbers up. Let's go. The lack of accuracy, not content knowledge, lowers your score. Okay, that's another one. Let's go. If you write it down, you believe it. If you measure it, you can achieve it. So let's make sure we get this written down. All right. Great. All right, Ron. Okay, great. And so we have this last section that I want to share with you all. And I'm going to just show you a brief part of it, but I'm going to give you a written documentation about a document so that you all can follow up on and use that to really get through it. It's a more organized way that I put things together. in this last section. And so we're going to move the questions from here. And this last part is the error log. And I'm just going to briefly introduce it to you now, but we're going to provide you all a copy of it, right? So stop sharing my screen real quick. And so we actually have an error log that we wrote you know, basically in a way to fully engage you all. Yes. Thanks, Elliot. Yeah, so Elliot and I and we all collaborated and we put together this error log document. And guess what? You get a free error log in it. And so in this error log document, we discussed this more in detail. Before we discuss the error log, I must share this caveat. The error log is the most important tool, but this is the only tool that only you can create. I cannot create an error log for you, nor can anyone at Magoosh. We can give you a template, but it's up to you to fill it up with information. Because you have to be honest and true and dedicated to the creation of the error log. And by creating it, you're able to use it to better understand your strengths and weaknesses. And I've seen scholars use the error log and seen their points increase tremendously over just a matter of weeks of using it. So I'm going to take you through the steps on how to build the error log, and then it's up to you to build the error log. And what I would love to see, and Elliot as well, I would love to see you do an error log entry, and then shoot an example back to us at help@magoosh.com so we can check it out. All right. So what I would love to see is you create an item set. An item set is a set of questions you will complete. I tend to start off with 4 questions. So I do 4 quant questions in 8 minutes, right? Because why? How long should I spend on every quant question? Drop it in the chat. Drop it in the chat. How long should I spend on every quant question? Two minutes, yes, 2 minutes. So if I did 8 quant questions, how many minutes will my error log session be? 16 minutes. There you go, Jim. Yep, Laura, great. All right. And so you're going to create 4 questions, and then you're going to complete the questions. And after you're done with the questions, you're going to begin to error log and take a journal and just answer these questions. And so these are the links for the error log. These are the different columns. Question type, what worked when you answered the question? Where did you go wrong? What will I do next time? Additional notes, and I will redo this problem on a date. The biggest problem that I see most of the time with the GMAT studies is that students begin the GMAT and they'll answer a bunch of questions in the OG, but never go back to solve them again. Just because you could get a question right the first time doesn't mean you can get it right the second time, the third time, the fourth time, or the 5th time. Also, just because you got a question right doesn't mean you got it right for the wrong reason. You could have gotten it right because just these 2 numbers multiplied together also give you a factor without really knowing which factor really is. So you need to take that time and really focus on it. So here is what a practice would look like. You would create 4 problems on a sheet, right? And you can do this inside the Magoosh product. Give yourself 8 minutes, start your 8-minute timer, and just begin to solve these problems one by one. And after you're done solving these problems, you'll now discuss and do very similar like we did before. Did you take a deep breath? Did you take a moment to think and reflect about the question? Did you take notes? And by doing this, this is your way of better understanding what's going on with your question set. Okay. So error logging is this your way right here of the beginning of an error log. And from here, you're able to take it on as far as like just better understanding what information is captured. And so by now, we have like our final takeaways, right? Time management, make sure you hit your benchmarks. Slow down, need to track yourself. Scratch paper, the exam writers love to trick you on every problem. If you answer a question in 1 minute, double check your answers. The error log, do not cheat the process. Less is more. Fewer problems, more reflections is the best way to have greater success on your error log and on the exam. And with that, the presentation is complete and we are open to any questions you may have. I know we're running a little bit over on time, but feel free for me to hang out and answer any questions.
Sure. Yeah, we can maybe get to one or two before we'll need to wrap up for today. And, if you need to get to your next thing, we'll be sharing out the recording by email. So you'll get to see the whole thing on your own schedule. We do have the question in the chat here. Jim is asking if you recommend revisiting a problem after you log it in your error log, or when are we going back to?
I typically do a week later. So if I do a problem on, let's say if it's January 2nd, I'll revisit it, January 9th. So a full 7 days later, if that's helpful.
All right, great. Veronica's, this is a really good question, comes up a lot. Are we logging all the questions we've answered or only the ones we got wrong?
That's a really good question. I think before you begin to focus on the questions you got wrong, look at why you got the question right, because you could have a false positive where you got the answer right, but you really did it the wrong way. So I would log those questions into the error log. But typically I would focus, if you say the error log is a pie, I would say 20% of those questions would be my right answers and 80% would be my incorrect answers.
Awesome. I think we might be ready to wrap it up for today, Derrick.
Got you, Elliot. So other than that, see you all later. Please reach out to us at help@magoosh.com and on my IG and LinkedIn as well. Happy to connect.